Hello there, one and all, and welcome to episode 387 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, coming to you live, as always, on YouTube. If you're regular viewers, you know this drill already, and you know that I'm probably going to say something like, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. And if you would like to find out how you can support my work, you should be able to see a link to my Ko-fi page in the video description below. Thank you very much for tuning in, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording. Please feel free to leave a comment, ask a question, etc., etc. And the first comment today goes to Pradeep, who says, hello, everyone. Hi, Pradeep. Sandra's here as well, saying hello, Pradeep, and hello, everyone. And Christine says, hello from London, Wimbledon men's semi-final, or Love at First Scent, no competition. Oh, well, I guess we've lost you to the Wimbledon then, Christine. The Wimbledon's live. You should probably be watching that. This recording will be around. Not that I want to do myself out of a viewer. Rachel is here as well, saying hello. And Paul says, hi, everyone, having a study break and glad to catch Persolaise live. Ooh, now, of course, we're all thinking, what is it that you were studying? J Pirate says, goodness, catching this bit live is a rarity. Hope all are well. Thanks for tuning in. And this is going to be one of the final episodes that we do before I put the channel onto its usual sort of summer break. So the idea is that we're going to do one of our sort of new and newish releases videos now, which will probably see us through the next 3/4 of an hour or so. And then tomorrow I will finish off this season, if I can call it that, with another top 10. And again, a top 10 where the idea was suggested by one of you. So I think we should get going, really. And in the same way that we've sort of been doing the last few episodes with the new releases, the ones that we're going to smell here, I have pre-sprayed as well. I've pre-sprayed, but I have tried not to smell them, although I'm getting certain things wafting over in my direction from over there. I can see Ingenious Ginger in the background. I need to try that one, says Sandra. Well, I wasn't going to start with that one, but actually, let's start with that one then. So here we go. Thank you, Sandra. This is Ingenious Ginger from the brand Goldfield and Banks. I have got a bit of a press release for this one. I think there's only one for which I don't have a formal official press release, but I've got a little bit of a blurb about it anyway. And I am genuinely curious to try this because I'm curious to try anything that's new from anybody, but also because a lot of people seem very, very taken with this brand, Goldfield and Banks, and yet I have yet to find anything from them that I have well and truly fallen for. In fact, there are some things from them that I don't really like very much at all. I found them kind of thin and unconvincing, but a lot of people do rate them, and I certainly rate the perfumer who has made this one. So I think we should just start, don't you? This is Ingenious Ginger from Goldfield and Banks. I have got a pre-sprayed blotter as well, but as I say, I have tried not to smell it. Let's see what this is like. Okay. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be gingery, but when you call a scent Ingenious Ginger, you're kind of setting up some fairly high expectations. Okay. Right. So let us say, first off, I am pleased to report that there is something very, very genuinely and very definitely gingery here. In fact, for a moment, I was transported back to the original Dior Homme Sport, the original Dior Homme Sport by François Demachy, which has got this sort of beautiful gingery note at the top. In fact, I seem to remember we talked about it not that long ago. Oh, yes, we did, but not on this channel. That's right. That was on JJ's channel, wasn't it? With Rachel there as well. Okay, so it's got that a very definite, recognizable, suitably yellow, mildly fizzing kind of ginger top note. Ingenious. Now, what's going to be ingenious about it? Now, ginger is an interesting kind of material because there's something There's something sort of citrusy and grapefruity about it, but there's also something quite dusty, almost maybe kind of like iris-like about it. Heading in the direction of being a bit earthy, maybe touches of licorice in there as well. It's a very, very, very definite, distinctive profile, and also it's quite hot, isn't it? It carries sensations of heat with it because eating ginger is not a million miles away from eating a chili pepper, right? Even though they seem to create that effect in completely different ways. So at the moment, I'm thinking, yes, this is very, very pleasantly gingery, but what's going to be ingenious about it? And also, what else am I going to be smelling here? And I think that's my feeling with a lot of the ones from Goldfield and Banks, although this one starts off much more pleasant than a lot of the other ones do, where I think, okay, I get it, and what's coming next? Let's leave that there for a bit and see how that develops for a few seconds. We've got the pre-sprayed one as well, but let's go and see what the brand sort of officially says about this in the press release. What have I got to tell you about this one? Curious about the development and dry down for this one, says Rachel. Yes, so am I. Ingenious ginger, an uplifting perfume that cascades on your skin, they say. Transportive and seductive, Ingenious ginger offers an instant sense of nature in a blissful and sultry destination. An uplifting perfume of sun-kissed mandarin, spicy ginger, elegant white florals, and warm enveloping amber that cascades on your skin. Yeah, it's a little bit too quiet to be all that uplifting. I mean, it feels like a kind of chilled, toned down ginger ale at the end of a tiring day, rather than something that's going to kind of give you an energy boost for you to be able to face the day with. An olfactory imagining of the unscented torch ginger lily flower, Ingenious ginger is an abstract, citrusy, floral, and ambery perfume that expresses our founder's most beloved tropical flower, which grows in abundance at his holiday home in the wet tropics. This solar perfume opens with a burst of bergamot, amplified by the effervescent scent of ginger, the sparkle of mandarin, and the bright and sunny aura of magnolia. The citruses, I would agree with. Magnolia is a tough one anyway. Past the lively opening, jasmine and rose petals unfurl atop the ginger heart to soften its piquancy. Soften is right, it is soft. Elevating the composition to be more bright and floral. Blonde sandalwood. Okay, let's leave that one for a while. And woody green patchouli then reveal fresh nuances to the ever-present ginger accord as the composition deepens with cascading waves of golden amber and vanilla towards the base. If they say cascade one more time, I may have to think of something appropriate to do in response. A revitalizing, I think they've made that clear. Perfume of spicy ginger, soft tropical florals, and cascading amber notes. Goldfield and Banks presents an olfactory interpretation of faraway mystique and natural abundance with ingenious ginger. There's always some kind of a link with Australia as well, isn't there? A very, very definite link. So let's see what it is in this perfume. It's an Australian ginger accord, it says. Not all of nature's flowers, regardless of their beauty, are gifted with a scent. To create an accord to represent the imagined beauty of the unscented torch ginger lily flower, Goldfield and Banks has used, Goldfield and Banks has used an olfactory, native material, red-back ginger as the starting point for this accord, rather than deriving it from an extract. Together with bergamot, mandarin, magnolia, vanilla, musk, and amber, perfumer Hamid Merati-Kashani realized Dimitri Weber's scented vision for this flower. With Ingenious ginger, Goldfield and Banks is the first perfume house to explore Australian redback ginger as an olfactory material and to add this complex native botanical to its all-Australian luxury perfume collection. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I would have been fascinated to have just smelt that on its own in isolation. What are you folks saying about it? J Pirate says, Southern Bloom is the one I like the most, but I have an extreme fondness for Baronia, which isn't especially common in perfumery or American gardens. Dusan says, Gucci Envy is the ingenious ginger. I'm guessing you mean for men, right? I've got a bottle of that hidden away somewhere very, very safely. I should actually bring it out in an episode once, shouldn't I? Rachel says solar. Is it solar, Mr. P? See, I'm thinking it's more sunset-like. It's a little bit too quiet, and there's nothing wrong with it by being quiet. In fact, to me, this feels like a very, very relaxed, as I say, end of evening cocktail. It's got that kind of feel to it. But not solar. I mean, there are sort of really nice kind of crimson scarlet hues of a really gorgeous sunset. J Pirate again, Goldfield and Banks doesn't steer into the Australianness all that much from what I've tried either. Finger Lime is fantastic in reality, but Bohemian Line feels whelming. I like that. Sandra says, well, it looks like I'll have to stick to Abbey Rouge Rouge Privé to satisfy my ginger craving. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mariam says, hello, everyone. May I ask if you have got any news on the upcoming Jean-Claude Eleanor release from Frederic Mal? I love how we go off topic. I think the only thing I know about that one is that apparently it's going to be called Heaven Can Wait. But I had a conversation about that with somebody the other day, and we were completely at cross purposes because I absolutely knew that it was a film reference. But I got the wrong. We both got the wrong film. The person I was talking to thought it was a reference to the Powell and Pressburger film A Matter of Life and Death, and I thought it was a reference to the Douglas Sirk film All That Heaven Allows. And then we kind of got there in the end, and we worked out what. So that's all I know. It's called Heaven Can Wait. Rachel says this one doesn't sound solar. Wonder why they used this term. Maybe because it's a fashionable term to use. Right, let's see the one that was pre-sprayed. So this was sprayed, what time is it here? It's it's 4:10 here in the UK. So this was sprayed about 3 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. So let us see what ginger is like with the passage of time. Okay, what's interesting is that I completely agree that ginger accord is still very, very much intact and very recognizable. So that top marks for them to them for doing that. That takes some technical skill, I think, and the amberiness is now more prominent. This is actually developed much, much more pleasantly, and it's much more sort of welcoming and just relaxing. I think this is where I disagree. As a perfume, if somebody had just presented this to me and they hadn't told me that it's called Ingenious, because I think that feels like a little bit of a letdown. It's not, well, maybe the ingenious thing is that the ginger lasts. Okay, maybe that's where they were going. But if they hadn't said solar, and if they'd actually said that this was what's the word? Not soporific, because that feels like a put down, but it is soothing. I think soothing is the word here. It does feel like something that could actually almost cause the sort of tension in your neck and your shoulders to just sort of wash away if you have had a bit of a tough day and you just want to have a very, very simple soothing drink, like a sort of good quality ginger ale or something that will give you a little bit of that fizz, but will not kind of be a sort of sucker punch. It's pleasant, actually, and there's almost like a suggestion of something like Coca-Cola to it, maybe because of the vanilla and the sweetness and something citrusy in there. So it well, I can't say finishes because this is only 3 hours, right? But actually, on the strength of this, I am thinking I would like to take this for a proper test drive, because I thought that maybe it would very, very quickly become really, really thin. And yeah, okay, interesting. We will need to keep smelling the blotters. I'm not a fan of soft fragrances, says Gunnar. I like to smell something if I spray it. It makes me work too hard. It should just be there. Is it just me? No, I don't think it's just you, but I think it's just a question of different things for different occasions, for different tastes, isn't it? But this one does feel as though it might be fairly present, because I didn't do very many sprays on that blotter a couple of hours ago. I think I only did the 2. So we shall return to this one with great interest. Okay, let's move on then to the one that I kind of thought I was going to start with, and it's new from Juliette Has a Gun. And I thought I'd show it off in the context of this limited edition discovery set that they've done here, which has got a 5 ml of Not a Perfume, which I presume a lot of you have smelt already, and then 7 samples. Would you like to know what they are in case you're interested? So it's got the new one that we're going to be talking about called Lust for Sun. And then there's Magnolia Bliss, Pear Incorporated or Pear Inc., Vanilla Vibes, Moscow Mule, and Musc Invisible. So let's just go for the new one, Lust for Sun. Wow, nice box, says Lucci. Yeah, I think this is a nice way of doing a discovery set, and the fact that you get a 5 ml with it is a nice touch. LR says, have you tried the new one from Etat Libre? I forget the name, but it sounds interesting. Okay, well, I don't know which one you mean, but the answer to your question is no, I haven't, because I haven't tried anything new from Etat Libre for a while. I know that there's one that is named, it's something under, it's a French name, it's something under some bridge, but also apparently there is a new one, which it seems is a replacement for, shock horror, Tom of Finland, because apparently Tom of Finland isn't with us anymore. I need to get in touch with them and find out what's going on. So this is Lust for Sun from Juliette Has a Gun, the brand co-founded and still creative directed by Romano Ricci. So, and to his credit, he keeps saying that he is not a perfumer. I remember I interviewed him years and years and years ago, I think in the sort of early days of Persolaise, where he said that he will get an idea, he will put things together, he will actually put raw materials together and create accords, but he says that he doesn't have the skill or the technical know-how to finish all of that, to turn it into a finalized perfume, and that's when he kind of hands the project over to a perfumer. So I think, you know, there are plenty of people in the industry who just on the strength of that would call themselves perfumers, but it, you know, hats off to him for not wanting to make that claim. But let's see what he has done with Lust for Sun. Now, I have to say that even though I have a fondness for a few things from Juliette Has a Gun, I do think in recent years they've been trying very hard to chase a particular sort of aesthetic. They were a brand that managed to be cool without ever trying to seem cool. And of course, I'm sure you will agree, trying to seem cool and trying to come across as cool is the absolute death knell for being cool, because as soon as you try to be cool, you just can't manage it, which is why I've never managed it. And I think in recent years some of the imagery, some of the names, you know, some of the pictures of this that are scantily clad women, it's all just felt like it's trying a little bit too hard, playing on the whole not a tagline. So not only do we have Not a Perfume, we've also, I think, got things like not a body spray and not a hand lotion, and after a while it started becoming a little bit cringeworthy. Woozy says Citizen Queen will always be an amazing scent, and that's one of the original ones, isn't it? They've discontinued lots and lots of things. Rachel says the house has been wildly hit or miss for me. Yeah, so let's smell the beginning of Lust for Sun. Okay, see, if you'd given this to me, I think completely blindfolded and not given me any context whatsoever as to where it had come from, I would be inclined to be thinking that it's maybe just one notch above a fairly generic, mainstreamy feminine. It's doing that kind of fruity, coconutty, let's all go to the beach. And, you know, this is the sort of, in thinking back to the video that I did a few days ago, the top 10 perfumes for Barbie and Ken, this is the kind of thing that is really, really trying hard to be a Barbie perfume. It's got that kind of pink girliness written all over it, really, really coconutty in a quite a rough kind of way. Rachel says, I feel like this house needs a punk rock woman in charge of its PR team, not some dude, no offense to dudes. Yes, that kind of, or somebody with that kind of attitude, right? Somebody that can channel that kind of attitude. Oh, and Sharon is telling us Penhaligon's Legacy of Petra is no longer available on the US Penhaligon site. You mentioned they might discontinue this one, and sadly, well, I didn't mention it because I thought it was going to happen. I just mentioned it in the sense that the things from them that I tend to like are the ones that tend to get discontinued. I mean, maybe it's just out of stock for a bit. That would be so. I mean, it's not even been around that long. An Instagrammer Perfume, says DJ, in relation to this one. Yes, I think this one is a very much sort of, let's try and get all the influencers on board. And so many of them just feel, you know, the other discussion we were having a couple of weeks ago, where we said that the sillage of so many releases nowadays has become so monstrous and so room filling that it's almost like the truly cool thing to do at the moment is to actually tone things down a bit. And this is another one of those ones I think that falls into the camp of just being a bit too rough. But let's see what the press release says. Lust for Sun, Juliette has a gun. It starts off with a quote from Coco Chanel. A girl should be two things, classy and fabulous. Okay, I would say if she wants to. Okay, look, so here's an image, right? There's nothing particular, there's nothing wrong with this image per se, but there just seems to be a little bit too much of this kind of thing from the brand. What did they say? A word from the creator. This new fragrance is an ode to the joy of summer. Skins offered to the sun, full of promises. I imagined a new playground for our Juliette, her swimming pool. So is it not filled with water then? A dreamy decor where our diva sets the rules and expects her entourage to fulfill her every desire. If she was setting the rules, I think she'd go for a different perfume. Everyone gets dressed up. Even the pink flamingo wears a scarf as they pose for a selfie. Somebody mentioned Instagram. A playful take on the era where we live in, where social media and the constant staging of our lives incite us to be ever more extravagant. With lust for sun, the summer will be bold and fabulous. Okay. Yes, there's another image now that I think actually I'd rather not share. The sun is high in the azure sky. The swimming pool is clear blue. Juliette in heels just stepped on stage. Showtime. The pool is her theatre, where she has the leading role. Her catwalk dominates with playfulness and sophistication. Her confidence is flawless, sassy, feminine, provocative. Even her flamingo can't resist. Standing ovation by the edge of the pool, a bottle of Lust for Sun, her signature fragrance, and so on. And then we've just got some notes. It's a solar floral, of course it is, with notes of freesia, coconut, bergamot. Moving on to ylang ylang, monoi, orange blossom, and gardenia, and settling down to vanilla, ambroxan, and musks. A sensual fragrance reminiscing of the rays of sunshine on a warm and golden skin, celebrating the warmth of summer. And that's kind of it. Susie says, hey, from Virginia, I don't like the name, and for some reason, I don't even want to try their perfume. Not for me. Gunnar says, should I buy Amaranthine, Ostara, and the rest of the discontinued ones from Penhaligon's? Where can you find them? Do you mean like online or something? Are they worth it? I can't sample them. So, well, are they worth it? Only you can make that decision. I can't. Somebody else jump in and comment. LR says, honestly, I could go the rest of my life and never hear anyone use that quote ever again, and that would be fine. The flamingo, says Paula. Yes. And oh yeah, somebody advising you to buy Ostara. It is beautiful. So let's try the pre-sprayed. Where is the pre-sprayed Lust for Sun? Okay, let's just clear the old nostrils a little bit. This is now, yeah, the party's just taken a nasty turn. Everybody's just done a little bit too much of something, and now the edges are getting a little bit blurred, and people are sort of going, get me out of here. And yeah, okay. So, but what is it smelling of? It is smelling of really, really kind of rough-edged flowers, heading in the direction almost of ambery woods. Is it ambroxan times? I cannot see how many zeros you've put in there. What is that? 6 zeros or 5? I don't know. No, it's not. Yes, okay. There is a lot of ambroxan in there, but it's also sort of slightly rough, woody, ambery things. Yeah. Okay. No. Lust for Sun, maybe, but not lust for this. It's just too rough. It's just too rough, and trying really, really hard, I think, to have this huge sillage. Maudlin says, I can't help but picturing, what is that, Sharpie from High School Musical, the more you talk about it. This reference is lost on me. Who is Sharpie or Sharpie? M says, this is what the market wants and buys. I like all kinds, including some Juliette has a gun, as well as the pricey niche vintage and discontinued. I don't care what people think. No, and absolutely, there will be a market for this, but this context is about me reviewing it, right? So I've got to tell you what I think. Okay, let's move on then. Let us move on to one that is, again, fairly new. I think it came out a couple of months ago from Aesop. You've got it here, which, again, an Australian connection. We've got a little bit of an Australian connection going on here. Now, who recently bought up Aesop? It was some really, really big... Was it... Somebody help me out. Was it L'Oreal? Was it L'Oreal that bought up Aesop that made me think, okay... is this another sort of nail in the coffin type scenario? This is called Gloam. I remember when the first time I came across the word Gloam, looking up what it meant. And what was it? It's the darkest part of twilight. So I suppose it's that point when twilight actually starts becoming night. Nice name. I've never experienced this brand. Looking forward to your thoughts, says Rachel. So this Gloam apparently is the latest addition to their range called the Other Topias. And we've talked about some of the Other Topias on this channel before. And I think generally speaking, we haven't been overly taken with them. But the brand as a whole... I think its early perfumes were better. So the very, very first one that they did, which is still around, was Marrakesh, which I think is now available only as a Marrakesh Intense, which is just a really, really unforced and beautifully simple, not simplistic, beautifully simple, spicy scent. You know, it really, really does feel like walking through a fantastically evocative spice market. And then there were some other ones that they did which were really great. And I remember really enjoying, was it Rosu? Which is a really curious, strange, compelling rose scent. But then the Other Topias, I thought it didn't quite do it. So let's see what Gloam is all about. Recently, all of them have been made by the perfumer Barnabe Fillion, and I believe this one is the same. Rosu is great, says the Better Third. Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it? That really, really worked. And this is called, as I say, Gloam. So let us find out what this one is like. Oh, yes. Sharon says L'Oreal bought them for around $3.7 billion. Billion? No, surely not. I didn't think I was that big a company. Well, if you say so. What currency, though? Is that American dollars? Or that's a lot of money. Okay. But then again, I say it's a lot of money, not knowing what currency you're talking about. So, Gloam from Aesop. Ah, okay. Definitely starts better than the other Topias. Now, what is it? It's like... It's something dry and dusty and saffrony, but also very, very, very kind of gently and slightly weirdly floral. This is interesting. This is intriguing. And if it is intriguing, and if it is somewhere kind of between dry and dusty, dusky and floral, then Gloam is a good name, right? Because it is something maybe twilight-ish, but heading into darker territory. Dry and floral is interesting, says Luciana. Yes, and so is this. It's only sold in the high-end hipster stores here in Denmark, says Maudlin. I think that... Well, they have their own shops in the UK. In London, they have their own shops. But they have got quite a prominent counter in the beauty department at Harrods. So yes, they do sort of tend to veer towards the higher end of things. And their stuff isn't cheap. Their perfumes are not cheap by any means. M says, has any company ever turned down being bought out or gotten a competing offer? That's a good question. I mean, I think some of the ones that we are now aware of that they've been bought up. I think some of them may have played hard to get. And of course, Hermès really, really strongly put up a fight and resisted a kind of takeover type situation from LVMH, and they succeeded. So there you go. So maybe Hermès is the answer to your question. Aesop is the Le Labo Byredo of skincare, says DJ. Now, I cannot talk about their skincare at all. I have no idea what it's like, whether it's just overpriced, whether it's any good. All I know is their perfumes. I'm sure Chanel has had a fair few offers, says Sir Siage. Oh, yeah, I would think you're right. Anyway, this is, you know what this is actually turning into, this Gloam? It's turning into like a more occidental, gentler, milkier, creamier version of Marrakesh Intense. Which is a good thing. This one I am liking so far. I've got the briefest little press blurb. Let's see what we've got. Spicy florals, Gloam Eau de Parfum. Spicy florals that evoke a landscape of the subconscious. Okay, maybe that's going a little bit too far. Gloam Eau de Parfum is the 5th installment of Othertopias, a collection of fragrances inspired by spaces both real and imagined. Centered on the divan, a horizontal portal for self-observation. I'm sorry, what? A horizontal portal for self-observation. Right, I'm going to have to look that one up. Gloam conjures the dreamscape where imagination enters and the waking world recedes. Here, the familiar collides with the uncanny. In a fragrance that blends the tangible and the elusive, rich florals, warm spice, and a bed of wooded depths combine to invoke reverie, rousing the senses, and enchanting the mind. An arresting first... Oh, okay. Navi says, divan, do you mean bed? They do mean bed, don't they? An arresting... That's why it's a horizontal portal for self-observation. Somebody has a mirror above their bed. An arresting first impression of spice characterizes the opening accords of Gloam, one composed of pink pepper and cardamom, and softened by the fresh florals of neroli and its sweeter counterpart, orange flower. This is followed by aromatic spice notes of saffron and clove. So this is like pretty much Marrakesh Intense, isn't it? That unfurl alongside herbal mate, heady narcissus, and pollen like mimosa. Milky creaminess. Warmth from rose and jasmine sambac lend a roundness to the spicy floral heart. At its base, Gloam is a sumptuous and powdery blend of iris, patchouli, and copaiba and sandalwood that delivers unexpected tactility and comfort. Tactile, bed, mirrors. I'm just going to read the next paragraph. Gloam has been created in partnership with Aesop's long-term fragrance collaborator Barnabe Fillion. As with all fragrances, individual body chemistry contributes to the overall impression. Yes, all right. Allowing for the creation of a personal variation for each wearer. Yeah, but that if that applies to you, then it applies to all perfumes, in which case there's no point saying it. Fillion is the creative mind behind the Othertopias collection, whose inspiration he describes thus: a smell, whether in the air, on our skin, or on our clothes, creates a world within our world that is both physical and imagined. A phenomenon that blurs the boundaries of past and present, real and unreal, here and there. A window into nature, so to speak, one that invites a dialogue with surroundings that we inhabit but often overlook. And so on. And that's just a little bit then about the other Othertopias. And 50 mils of this stuff, in other words, this little bottle here, will set you back £140. So that's why I say it ain't cheap, boys and girls. What do folks say here? Horizontal portal, really? Can anyone recommend perfume stores to visit in Lyon and Paris? Says, okay, well, I can't at the moment, sorry, but somebody else should be able to. Sir Siage says, why can't these brands just say it smells like XYZ? It's always, it explores the intangibility. I love the use of capital letters here, of the enigmatic unknown design. Well, I don't mind if they say that, if that actually kind of chimes with what I'm smelling, but I get what you're saying. Did they ask ChatGPT to write that blurb? Impressive stuff. If they asked ChatGPT and ChatGPT came up with that, then I would be worried about the mirror arrangements of ChatGPT's divan. I adore Mirasetti, says Genevieve. I'm partial to strong pepper and labdanum notes. Effing Fabulous says, hello, Persolaise. I'm new to the channel and Fragcom in general, but I've been loving your content so much. That's very kind. Thank you. This is my first time catching you live. Oh, amazing. Brilliant. They and Byredo use the same writers, it seems. Let's try because this, I have to say, press release aside, I like the kind of spicy floral combined with the sort of South of France mimosa quality. Let's see what it's like in the sort of pre-sprayed bit. Actually, weirdly kind of like more peppery irisy. So the iris is coming out a lot now, but so is the pepper, which could be the things like the copaiba and some of the other woods in the base. I like it. I do like it. I mean, I think maybe it's because they're trying to create a sense of it being really quite mystical and introspective and self-exploratory. And I don't get that particularly, but what I like is that they've presented these materials that could potentially be quite heavy hitters, and yet they've got a very, very sheer, very translucent sort of quality to them. Is it a rooty iris or more of a powdery iris, says Woozy? Well, actually, it's probably a woody iris, if anything. A woody iris with the sort of spicier, maybe more carrot seedy type facets brought out. You make it sound nice, says Maudlin. It's okay. It's actually I shouldn't sound so surprised because, well, I suppose I am surprised because after the other Topias, I thought maybe the brand was going to start going in a direction that I wasn't going to particularly appreciate. But I think they did things well when they just went for some good quality materials, and it feels as though the spices in this and maybe the labdanum, the ambery base, are just good stuff and do it and work. And that combo of the iris, and I suppose there'll be a kind of segue to it from the mimosa at the top, is quite neat. But it's interesting that they keep sort of presenting it in the press release as something internal, whereas this one actually feels a little bit more outdoorsy to me. This one feels like it's taking me on a walk through some sort of landscape. Aesop does have a strong aromatherapy DNA, says Sharon. Are you reviewing the new Jean-Paul Gaultier Gold Le Mal today? Not today. I didn't even know about it. I don't think it's really, really bad. Well, you just reviewed it for us. 17 sample fragrances of Le Labo, says Gunnar, left me severely underwhelmed. I like the Noir, Vetiver, and maybe Lys and Ylang, not bottle-worthy to me. What about Santal 33? But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. Right, so we're down to 2. And I think we should do the one next that actually, even though it's kind of newish to me, I believe it came out in 2022, and it's from Nishane. I think one of the first times, if not the first time, that we're actually talking about Nishane on this channel. This is called, it's called Mana, and it's made by Christian Provenzano, and this was one of the ones that when I pre-sprayed the blottos in preparation for this video, this really, really has a lot of potency and a huge sillage, and I did kind of think, okay, so is it going to be this kind of thing? Woody Amber Bro Bomb, says DJ. You have smelled this one before, I see, Mr. Bond. Yeah, well, let's just spray it. Now, Nishane is a interesting kind of brand. I think they celebrated their 10th anniversary just very recently or last year. Done very, very well. Really quite successful in Harrods, apparently. There are a few of theirs that I like, and I've sort of got them on the back burner, and I keep thinking I need to do a video to mention the ones that I like. But a lot of the times, many of them also leave me feeling a little bit indifferent. I've had much trouble, says JJ. Oh, hello, JJ, by the way, with Provenzano's style. None of his fragrances thus far have sat well with me. Well, he is called upon a lot of the time to do the sort of Arabian stroke faux Arabian thing. He gifted us, thank you, Penhaligon's Halfeti. But look at what a massive success that has been, right? Huge hit for the brand. So, and I do not begrudge them that at all, but it's not my favorite Penhaligons. And some of the other ones, I think he's done some of the other trade routes, and a lot of the time I think he's called upon to give things that very, very kind of overtly cliched now, American. Let's go slightly East Arabian signature with the sort of woody ambers, as somebody just said, and the roses and the ouds and the leathers, and I put them in inverted commas because I suspect a lot of them are very, very synthetic ouds. Isn't he also one of the most well-respected figures in the industry, says Woozy, like on the same level as a Jean-Claude Ellena? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know, but he does what he's asked to do, right? He gets a brief from a customer. Okay, so this is we're getting that faux Arabian thing. JJ again. There is one of his that I do appreciate, Penhaligon's Alizarin. That's the only one, believe. And is that not one of the ones that's already been discontinued? Okay, so this is Mana. Okay, big. I want to fly to Dubai, and I don't want to just be in the transit lounge of the airport, but I want to hit the town. So it's got that. It's got that synthetic, oody, rough thing. That rough, almost isobutyl quinolini type leather. That thing that says, let's put saffron here and let's put rose in there, and let's just all pretend that we've known Dubai for years and years and years. And actually, I think he does know that part of the world very well, but he also knows what passes as something from that part of the world. Yeah, it's we've had this before. We've had this kind of thing before. A tiny little bit of a blurb from the brand. Nishane is proud to announce the launch of its new perfume, Mana, the third reference of the Prestige collection that started with Nefs in 2019 and expanded with Shem in 2021. Upon receiving continuous requests by perfume lovers for a rich oud and leather scent to be included in the Prestige collection, the quest to end up with the exquisite, unique, and powerful oud and leather scent has been really challenging. However, the end result is astonishingly pleasant. Sorry, we took ourselves by surprise there. With Mana, Nishane is inviting everyone to find the meaning in life and the inner force that will help them create the life they choose, leave their own mark, and unfold their own myth. So a fairly unambitious sort of brief then. Mana means meaning. Okay. In what language? I don't know. In Turkish? I don't know. Somebody tell me. Throughout modern history, one of the questions that humans have asked the most is, what is the meaning of life? After, what are we actually going to eat for supper tonight? We are all hungry for meaning, for purpose, for the feeling that our life is worth more than the sum of its parts. This perfume would not... Anyway, luckily, humans are resourceful. We have infinite ways of finding meaning and infinite potential sources of meaning. We can find meaning in every scenario, every event. Please tell me something about this perfume. Every occurrence, every context, we can find... Okay, this carries on for a bit. Top notes of the perfume: cardamom, saffron, geranium, and black pepper. Moving on to Turkish rose, castoreum, suede, and oud. Finally, labdanum, patchouli, sandalwood, moss, gaiac wood, benzoin, olibanum, musk, the usual suspects. It's this kind of thing. Persolaise tries a Nishane, and we are all gassed, says Amanda. Press releases are fun, says Luciana. Yeah. According to Google Translate, Nishane is pronounced Nishane. Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know. Well, okay. Well, we'll have to... one day I will hope to meet somebody who will actually tell me. This is a very entertaining episode, says Tina. I'm glad you think so. I hope that's in a good way. Life-transforming perfume, you say. No. I did not say this. They said this. So this perfume is not going to transform my life. And you know, you almost actually can tell where it's going. So let's just get the pre-sprayed bit. Where is it? Mana. Here we go. Yeah, it's totally what you'd expect it to be. So it's got that kind of sooty, leathery note, patchouli. I mean, yeah, you have smelt this before, and I'm just trying to maybe think of an example. So of course my mind goes blank when these sorts of things happen. But just generic ouds, those sort of generic ouds that we've had so often. Have you taken the Geiger counter to the bottle yet? Do you know what? Maybe the one thing I should say is that actually it's not as nuclear as you might have expected. There are ones out there that are even bigger. I was in Harrods the other day walking along with somebody, and actually the person where we were having the conversation about heaven can wait and a matter of life and death, and somebody walked past him, and he suddenly had this. He literally did a sort of oof, and I just sort of went, no, it's Harrods. Don't worry, you're just in Harrods. So it's that kind of smell of Harrods type thing. So perhaps in the UK it's a Harrods exclusive. I don't know. How polite is the sillage? It's not extremely impolite. Let's put it that way. Okay. We're supposed to find the meaning of life inside a generic oud, says Schoen. According to this brand, yes, you are. Let us finish with one, because this is going to be the final new review of this season. Because if everything goes according to plan and I can do a video tomorrow, and it should, fingers crossed, that's just going to be a top 10 and a fun top 10, hopefully. I wanted to end on something that I knew was going to be good. And because I've already worn it a couple of times, and I thought, okay, well, let's end on a high. And it's this one here. It's new from Escentric Molecules, and an interesting thing that Escentric Molecules have done. By that I mean the release itself, because it's a Harrods exclusive, and it's called H01. So, as with everything else from this range, it was composed by the Berlin-based perfumer Geza, who actually came over to the UK last week, I think, to launch it, but the timings didn't work and I couldn't go to meet him, which was a real shame because I always enjoy meeting him. But I think the fact that this brand of all brands has done a Harrods exclusive is interesting because, I mean, I don't know, and this is pure speculation on my part now. I haven't spoken to Geza about this, but when the idea for doing a Harrods exclusive came, or when Harrods asked them to do an exclusive, I should imagine there would have been quite a bit of tension there, because one of the things that has caused the brand to be successful is that they have managed through Molecule 01, through some of the other releases, to maintain this kind of hipsterish, slightly edgy, almost kind of like, sort of steampunky kind of feel. And I'm not sure how that ties in with the idea of a Harrods exclusive. Geza is such a nice person, says Disco. Yes, he is. He absolutely is. And he's had a lot of time for this channel, and he's been very, very supportive of what all of us do on this channel and all of our conversations. And so when I found out they were going to be doing a Harrods exclusive, I thought, ooh, I wonder what Geza thought of that. Now, I think Harrods are very, very big on exclusives, and I think that's probably because they're very, very clever and very astute in thinking ahead and looking at where the retail landscape is going, because I guess they know that they have to work very, very hard to do things that will actually attract people to them, to their store, rather than any other store. And one of the things that you can do is clearly create experiences that you can't get anywhere else. I don't know if H01 is being sold on the Harrods website, but even if it were, just the fact that there's only one shop where you can get it is enough to bring people into that shop. So that's the sort of context of the release. But what I also find interesting, and why I've enjoyed wearing it, I think actually I can safely say it's one of my favorite things from Escentric Molecules, having, on the strength of 2 days wearings, and I'm not just saying that. I think what's interesting is that it's a real mix of the kind of the Geza Escentric Molecules aesthetic with the Harrods aesthetic. And when brands can do that, when they do their Harrods exclusives or their Selfridges exclusives or their Liberty exclusives, whatever, when they can really bring the kind of two mindsets together to create a genuinely convincing hybrid, I think that's great. So what do I mean by the sort of Geza Schoen aesthetic? Well, obviously, regular viewers will know lots and lots of ISO-E super, which means something that essentially is very, very, very clean, very translucent, has a genuine kind of light quality to it. It doesn't mean that it has to be insubstantial, but it's not something that will feel as though it's kind of weighing you down, pulling you down. Something that will feel as though it didn't take a very long time to compose, even though actually it may have taken a long time to compose. Something where you can imagine that as the person was making it, they were in modern surroundings. They were in a kind of a very well-functioning metropolis that's maybe just like 3 years ahead of us. There's something sort of futuristic about his aesthetic as well. So that's the Geza Schoen aesthetic, and of course the Harrods aesthetic is much more opulent, much heavier, much more kind of conservative, I suppose. And also, let's face it, if you've been to Harrods, you know, a place that very, very much courts the spending power of people from the Middle East. And those two come together really, really well in H01. So what is it when we smell it? When we smell it, it's a kind of peppery leather, which works really, really well on skin, I have to say. I've really enjoyed wearing it these last 2 days on myself. I do love Geza's work from many brands, says Rachel. I mean, so many people love his work for Ormond James, right? So many fans of that. And actually, I need to find out what they've been doing lately, because the people whoever it is that handles their PR in the UK, I'm clearly not on their sort of mailing list or anything. So I need to go into one of their boutiques and find out what's been going on. So it's got that transparent, streamlined, slightly futuristic quality, but it's also got flesh. There is a body here, okay? This is not made by robots. It's not made by androids. These are people here with blood pumping beneath the skin. And sometimes I think maybe some of Geza's perfumes do become a little bit too bloodless for my personal tastes, but this brings things closer to blood, closer to the heart, okay? There is life here. And the leather note itself is a really, really beautifully done, soft, gentle, tender leather note that reminded me, and I mean this as really, really high praise, reminded me of the leather note that Jean-Claude Eleanor did for Hermès in Cuir d'Ange, except that even though that kind of slightly petroleum-y feel is present here, it's done Geza style, so that it's made more transparent. We have a press release for this too. You will be pleased to hear, as long as I can know which app to go to. It's not terribly long. It says, what does it say? It says, as 2006 began, 21st century fragrance as we know it was still waiting to be born. Something radical would be necessary to break the spell of this 100-year sleep, a marginal notion that would unhinge the world of mainstream perfumery. It would be called eccentric molecules, and it would become the scent sensation of the 21st century, causing a frenzy that no one ever saw coming, etc., etc., etc. 17 years and a whole family of cult favorite scents later, Eccentric Molecules is pleased to present H01, our first ever exclusive eau de parfum for Harrods. The fragrance is named H01, a wordplay on Molecule 01 and Harrods, fittingly, as Eccentric Molecules 01 was the debut fragrance pair from Eccentric Molecules, and H01 is our first exclusive scent for Harrods. Quote from Geza: the idea was to create a full-on wearable fragrance with a strong connotation of ingredients which play around an almost amberesque style structure full of woods and patchouli and leather and musks with a hint of sweetness. H01 does not necessarily share the same minimalist approach as other Eccentric Molecule fragrances. No, it doesn't. You're right. It is a fragrance on its own for a world we have collaborated with, a big challenge, yet also a pleasure to adapt to a differently guided world and its likings. Interesting. There's quite a long pyramid, but I'll skip that and just go to a description of the scent. H01 is an ultra-luxurious, gender-fluid fragrance from Eccentric Molecules, concocted exclusively for Harrods. Think sun-soaked desert, the raw and untamed beauty of this unforgiving landscape, celestial night skies, swaying palm fronds, endless dunes of sparkling golden sand, which in fragrance terms translates as an olfactory triangle of moss, musk, and amber. I mean, okay, I think maybe the imagery, to me, is a bit simpler than that, but I think that's what the strength of this is. This isn't like sort of crazy Baroque. H01 bottles the magic of an Arabian summer escape, encompassing all the warmth of Abu Dhabi in one sensual spritz. Interesting they haven't said Dubai. I wonder if that was Geza himself saying, let's not mention Dubai, let's do Abu Dhabi. The entrance of this magic potion is sure to transport you to a citrusy oasis with its medley of versatile bergamot, mandarin, lime, orange flower, juniper berry, and pink pepper. The heart is dominated by heavenly divana and plum peach combination, muddled with freesia and a lavish bouquet of Turkish rose oil, magnolia, jasmine. Okay, this is making it sound like a lot heavier and sort of unreadable more than it is. As the gust of desert wind settles, the fragrance dries into the musky amber base note with patchouli, vetiver, sandalwood, cedarwood, suede, and moss. Styrax and benzoin in the base lend the juice its balsamic undertone. The delicate yet richly textured result is leathery and animalic, and its opulence evokes the olfactory image of the coastal islands and desert scenery of Abu Dhabi. Okay, I think that makes it sound a kind of a little bit crazy. That press release is a little bit like sort of let's throw everything and the kitchen sink at people. But that's not what you get in the scent. You actually you get elegance. You do get elegance in the scent. Yeah. And it's that leather. I mean, okay, I suppose leather was always going to kind of be successful at tugging my heartstrings. But it really, really works as a meeting point, as I say, of Geza's style and aesthetic and what Harrods may have asked them to do. I think it works. And I have a feeling it will do well, or I hope it will do well. Because I think I think he sometimes does, as somebody else suggested, his more interesting work when he's actually working to a brief from someone else. What do you think, Mr. P, says Rachel? Oh, about what? What was the question? I've lost the question now. Dubai, the city without functional sewage system, says Rachel. Really? What do you mean? I mean, no. I grew up there, right? I know it has completely functional sewage systems. I'm curious to try this one, says Rachel. Seems like Escentric, says Pradeep, have inspired Guerlain to make the upcoming one-note precious elixirs. Ooh, I need to find out about that. Do I know about this? I will need to find out more. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I think we are done. I will be back tomorrow, all being well, with a fun top 10 with which to formally end this season before we take an extended break. But as far as the reviews go, that is it. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for making it fun. Thanks for all the comments and the questions and for putting up with me. And I will see you very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Be good. Bye now.